I've asked her to read the book and just ask a couple questions, and then I'll just think a little bit, and then we'll be done.
So shall we begin?
Yes.
So the first question is, why is this book and the ability to work with relationships so important now as we head into the fourth industrial revolution?
Okay, so I think that's quite a nice question, and everyone has spoken to relationships. But one of the key things that has broken down in the last 10 to 15 years is the ability for people to actually even begin to forge relationships. And it's not just the stereotypical, you see people in restaurants and in teams, and they're on their phones and they're on their computers, and they face each other at work, but they email each other rather than talking to each other. But it's more than that, because digitalization and technology has disrupted the workplace and is continuing to disrupt the workplace in some very good ways to take us forward. But one of the things that is done, and particularly coming in with the younger generations, is that they are not forming relationships where they can talk to each other. And so what happens in teams is what's happening with leaders is we are advancing leaders with technological and technical expertise who are experts in their field, but they do not have expertise in leadership, and they don't have expertise in building relationships, and they don't understand it. And I work with a lot of leaders. One of my leaders that I really love, and he's in the telco industry, and he said to me, "Do I really have to get to know them?" Can't we just kind of have a beer and a chat and that's it? And another team leader that we're going to be working with next week said to me, "Okay, so it's great. We're going to have 2 days with the team. We're going to all be together. That's great. You're going to teach them how to communicate. I'm going home at the end of the first day. They're all going to stay and have dinner with you." And I said, "I hate to tell you, but I think you're going to stay and have dinner as well." Because that's the point. So in terms of the fourth industrial revolution, we've got amazing things happening. But we're losing with our younger kids, our millennials, our centennials. They aren't even beginning to be able to forge relationships. And we are losing it at the upper end. And so in terms of leadership, the two core skills for leaders in the world today, two core skills are learning how to learn. That's the core one. So you need to be learning how to learn your entire life, improving, getting better the way that what you were chatting to us about, Mike, earlier. But the other skill is the ability to deepen relationships. The ability to actually connect and resonate with another human being. So we are, because of the disruption that we are facing, we are losing our human beingness. And that's what leaders need to bring back into the workplace.
Did I answer your question? I think so. Okay. So what do we need to bear in mind to create team effectiveness when working with diversity in teams? And what are the most important things that team members need to do? Can you ask me again? So should we start with the first part of the long question? What do we need to bear in mind to create team effectiveness when working with diversity in teams?
So I think one of the key things that we now experience worldwide is that there is diversity, and the thing that I don't know if you'll agree with me on this or not, but one of the things that we should be really good at in South Africa is understanding, working with cultural competence and cultural diversity and inclusion. And we're rotten at it in a lot of ways because we had a history of not doing it. So then the doors were opened, and then we were all of a sudden meant to be good at it. And so one of the things that's happening is there is a lot of diversity in teams in many, many ways, from racial, gender, linguistic, experience, background, a complete array of diversity, intelligences that we bring to the team. But what's happening is we're not managing it very well. And I think one of the things that is very important is, in terms of cultural competence, which is what we work with leaders, is being able to dissociate yourself from the biases and prejudices that you hold about yourself, that you hold about others. We all carry many, many, many identities. I mean, I carry many identities. I'm a woman, I'm a mother, I'm a daughter, I'm a sister, I'm Caucasian, I speak several languages. English is my first language. I grew up in the era of drugs, sex, and rock and roll in San Francisco. Don't imagine anything. In California, I grew up with Vietnam and Cambodia, so I grew up as an activist, as a Democrat. I carry lots and lots and lots of different identities. So you can imagine what I feel about my president. So we all carry many identities. But the thing that happens in teams is we don't actually know anything about the identities that the other people we're working with carry. We just see them two-dimensionally. And that's the work that we're doing with relationship systems intelligence. It's helping people emerge their stories, emerge what is their history, what is their past, what is their present, what is their future, in a way that is safe, and that is in a way that people can access it in the workplace that isn't schmoozy, schmaltzy, over the top, etc., but we become and can be professional friends. I don't know if I answered that question, but the thing I want to say about the Nancy Klein work and the thinking environment work is that it is the most beautiful work for diversity and inclusion. And that's why we work with it, because that's how you bring people to the core of being able to share how they be who they are and sharing how they do that.
And I love the way that Nancy actually embraces diversity and says that diversity is a good thing. We shouldn't try and make us all the same. The second part of that question was, what are the most important things that team members need to do?
They need to talk to each other. That's the main thing they need to do. They need to talk to each other. They don't do that a lot. They do, but it's corridor talk. They do the corridor talk. But they need to talk to each other. They need to get to know each other. And they need to be able, I think this is probably the primary competence that they need to develop, which is the ability to have robust conversations and the ability to argue together, the ability to think together, the ability to be together in a way where safety is created so that they can disagree and they can organically find something better. I would say that would be my simple answer to that.
So the next question is, South Africa is such a rich and diverse multicultural society, and what has your experience been in working with teams in South Africa?
So, well, I'll tell you the first thing that I learned when I came to South Africa, and I learned it very quickly. I got the lesson very quickly, which is I had come from living for 25 years between London and Paris, and living with the English. The English, they're quite sarcastic. They have this very dry sense of humor. Danny says no. They have this very dry and wry and just extraordinary sense of humor where sometimes you don't even know they are being funny. And the first thing I learned when I came to South Africa, and they make jokes about God. Now, when I came to South Africa, the first thing I learned was to don't make jokes about God. And it's a bit like my country because it's a very faith-based country. And honestly, that was the first thing that I learned, to actually be respectful in a different kind of way. I had to unlearn the sort of disrespectful way the British have of teasing each other and getting with each other, and adapt to a new culture and a new society who had a different sense of humor, who had a different way of being funny, and had a different way of engaging with each other. But the question was about
working in a diverse multicultural society. What's your experience?
I have to tell you, I've worked in a lot of countries, and I've lived in quite a few countries, and I've never lived in such an extraordinary country as this country. My husband is South African, and the reason we came back was that we thought he wasn't going to live, and so we came to South Africa, sort of upset the apple cart in terms of our lives. But this country is so rich in its cultural diversity in every single way. And working with teams, we harvest that richness. We harvest the difference. We harvest where we're similar, where we're different. And I think that's the beauty of the work that we do with teams, is harvesting and harnessing the beauty that is there in difference. And in how we think differently, how we feel differently, but always at the end of the day, it comes down to teams realizing that they have common purpose. common intention. And it's just helping them to find that. And I think that's what's really important in organizations. I don't know if I'm answering your question. So.
What you said. So you've developed a high performance relationship coaching model that helps.
Don't worry, I'm not going to give you the detail. It's okay. but please read the chapter.
That helps team coaches work with agility and to deal with complexity. Tell us a little bit about it.
So I think what I'm going to talk to is leadership and agility, and I think that one of the things that Deborah and Krina and Dumi and I have been doing in the work that we do is to find a way of helping leaders to tap into mental agility, emotional agility, cultural competence agility, physical agility, what have I forgotten? Emotional agility, all the different intelligences that there are, relationship systems agility. And I think the key thing in terms of agility is it comes down to learning. And if a leader isn't willing to learn, then it's going to be impossible for them to be able to adapt and have flexibility and have resonance with their team. So I've developed two models. One is the overarching journey that you do with an organization from beginning to end of your journey with them in terms of how you start and who your sponsors are. And I mean, that's really the key thing. You actually do 6 months of work sometimes before you even get to work with the teams. You're doing some work with the teams from the beginning, but before you even get the teams together, you're doing a lot of work with the sponsors, you're doing a lot of work with them individually, you're meeting with them several times, you're winning their trust, you're developing rapport with them, and only then do you start working with the team coaching sessions, because there's some trust that there's a little bit of an undercurrent of it, because the core things you're working with are conflict management and helping them to manage that, relationship management and helping them to develop their relationships, but you're working with power and rank, and you're working with the conflict that brings, and then you're working with the network of systems that they have in their organizations. You know, they have relationship systems, technological systems, technical systems, economic systems, a whole range of systems that come together that get in the way of them being able to actually communicate with each other. And so agility is core. And so what we look at, and what Mike and I look at in organizations is, who are your high performers? Who are the ones who can execute on the tasks? Who are the ones who can get the job done, who can implement? But where are your high potentials? And that's where agility sits in. Where are those who can take on more than what they have been given? Who can see around corners, what we call game changers. They can actually see around corners to see where we should be going. That's agility. So there are lots and lots and lots of different ways that we can work with agility, and I would say that's probably important.
You've spoken about an enormously complex process, and it strikes me that, of course, I'm coached to have an incredibly wide breadth of experience and skills in order to do this work. What would you say are the core skills, criteria, and attributes of a great team coach?
I don't think I have to answer that question. I think you've got the answers. So, can you say the question again so they can think about it? I want to see what you have to say.
So what are the key criteria, skills, and attributes of a great team coach?
So somebody help me. So if I don't see any hands, thank you so much, Barbara, for answering the question.
So I would say one is the ability to both observe what's going on in the room and sense at a higher level. So we call it the soft eyes. What the patterns are. Being able to connect patterns between what's said, what's not said, what exists in the system, rather than necessarily what's going on in the room.
Okay, lovely.
Parallel processes.
And thank you. Parallel processes, that's brilliant. Thank you. And what's going on in the room, and in terms of what Karina was talking about earlier, what's the temperature in the room, and what's the emotional field in the room? And being able to know when there's something that is about to emerge or you need to help it to emerge. Thank you. Gail?
So you said characteristics of team coaches. So, yeah.
The key skills, attributes.
Yeah, I think for me it's also looking at what people represent. So the team that's family, they all represent parts of the wider system. So sometimes it's also kind of quite tempting to say, well, that guy should keep quiet, or that guy should kind of temper the way that he does things. But actually it's reflective of what's happening in the whole system. And when the team starts moving, then also the broader system starts moving.
That's beautiful. Thank you. Yeah. And so that everyone can learn. Yeah. Okay. And Ronnie.
Well, I'd say quite basic, actually, being able to mirror back what's happening in the team. That's probably most of what you have to do. If you feel you're working hard, then you are. But that's just the sum total of what I would look at, and I just want to build on what Gail said. Having what we call deep democracy, that competence, really allowing different perspectives, different voices to have expression, no matter how difficult they may be for you, no matter how challenging they may be, how unskillful they may be, but allowing them expression so that you have a broad view of what exists in that team or that system.
Thank you. Karina?
I think it's listening. I think it's listening at the levels that have been spoken to and hearing the voices. And I think it's ease inside. I think it's centeredness and groundedness inside. So that you're not full of you at all. You're holding for the system and the root.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a big part of it, what Ron is saying, is getting out of your own way as a coach. And being able to hold back from your own, not to scratch your itch.
Not to scratch your itch. Yes. Yes. Bill.
Sunny, I wanted to answer the question from the perspective of one who's been coached rather than as a coach. And I think when I reflect on the teams that I've been in that have been through a coaching intervention of some description, those that have been most successful have been when we've hardly known the coaches there. And I think it's to what Dumi's saying, kind of getting out of your own way, where I think the words. And so in a team, and you kind of come out of a really successful coaching intervention, you think, how did that happen? You know, you didn't feel you were being led, you didn't feel that you were being taught, you didn't feel it was a learning, it was a growth, it was a transformation, but you weren't being taught, you weren't being lectured. And I think in that as well, I'm reflecting on some of the coaching interventions that might not have been so successful. So from within the team, it's the team doing the work, although of course the reality is the coach is there to fuel the team and to keep it going perhaps.
Thank you. Anybody else before I go on, Ronnie?
But just one that I find particularly challenging for many team coaches, particularly as it pertains to relationship systems, is reading and articulating the emotional field. Emotions are the currency of relationships, but naming those emotions, particularly in business teams, is very challenging, but such a useful skill to have, because in that moment you are mirroring back to the team what's going on. In that moment, you are holding the team as naturally intelligent and creative. You are actually holding them in their resourcefulness, their generative ability to be able to deal with those emotions and get the messages that sit in them.
Thank you. Yes.
Teamwork, I believe, brings about passion. And that's why the people sometimes feel like it's conflict. But as a team, that's where you learn from the other person. You need to actually be resistant enough to listen to other people, not necessarily be judgmental, from the beginning. You sit and listen. You might not agree with what your other team members say, but it actually, at the end of the day, you have learned something, and they've actually taught you something that you never thought about. And I think the conflict thing is sort of conflict is like actually building you as a person, and that's what teamwork is, and it becomes dynamic.
Thank you. I think I would finish this question to just say I think there are a couple things that really stand out for me. One is that the importance of ease within the team coach, the facilitator, very, very important. That ease because it's magnetic. We are electromagnetic creatures, and so it's contagious. The other thing is the ability to emerge what is actually in the team. That's really core. So your skills of facilitating that process. But the other thing is that they, in terms of what they're doing with the work with you, they are developing new skill and competence. And so how did that happen? How did that shift happen? We did this. Let's do this in our team. So that's also very important. And then the last thing I would say is I think it's really important to be able to co-coach, co-facilitate, co-team coach with, because you do a dance that's different and it means you stay out of the way. And that's really important.
So there was a second part to that question, a small part to it, and that is, do you think that team coaches need to be trained differently to coaches that are working with individuals?
I do, and I also think team coaches and leaders should be trained similarly. And I think that's the thing I feel the most strongly about.
Is there one more question? Two more. So today we're looking into SPARE, our domestic and global leaders. What are we looking to our leaders for? And how do you address this? What is the next level of leadership that we wish our leaders to step into?
Okay. I think we're looking to our leaders for hope. I think we live in times where it doesn't feel like there's much hope, but there is. But it's just the way we are, in terms of what is happening in every country in the world, in every society, what we've got going on in the States, in Europe, in Africa, in the East. Societies are erupting, and there is a lot of disruption, and I think leaders need to bring hope. And I think they need to also bring skill to help develop the people beneath them that are reporting to them. But I think the core competence that a leader needs to be able to bring is hope. And I think that is sorely missing in our organizations, in our institutions, in our society, but it's there, but we need to emerge.
The final question is, you always say we're all trying to define ourselves by who we are and who we're becoming. Is this something you address in the book?
It is. And I want to read you something, and I want to ask you a question. So I'm going to read you something, which is what I call stepping into becoming. And this is, I feel this is at the core of how do we be who we are, and who are you being, and who do you want to step into being. So without deeply looking at how you do you, developing a deep understanding of yourself, as well as understanding how others experience you. It is hard to find new ways to articulate yourself and identify what new learning is needed for you to grow and to develop in alignment with your own self-vision. And it always takes some reflection to really identify where you are now and where you want to be. It isn't just about what job you stay in or move into. It is more about who you want to step into becoming in your life, in this world. And so my question for you is this, is how do people experience you? Because that talks to how you do you. How do you do you? So how do you think people experience you? And who do you want to step into becoming? So I have two questions for you. How do you think people experience you? And who do you want to step into becoming?